in a world where people aren't hurting me or taking my stuff, I can tolerate and ultimately respect a lot of choices that I personally wouldn't make and probably disagree with. And that's sort of my utopian libertarian thing. I don't think it's that utopian, though, because I think this is how people have figured out how to get along with each other for the entire of history. And the only alternative has been war and violence.
And where does being armed factor into this worldview?
Oh, that's a great question. And one of my favorite libertarians asked this question: what's the best way to keep your family safe? And it would be quite typical for a libertarian to say, arm up, have lots of guns, and defend your family, and be prepared to do so. And what my libertarian friend says is, no, that's not right. Because if we live in that kind of world where mobs rule, first of all, you don't want to live in that world. And he's like, you are safest if your neighbor shares the same respect for life and property that you do. So shared values. Now I'm a rabid Second Amendment guy. I think the main reason that we have the Second Amendment is not to protect us from our neighbor, it's to protect us from an authoritarian government. But I think if we ever got to the point where we had to defend our family by being well armed, we've already lost. We've lost everything that matters. So this will upset some of our friends on Discord who would absolutely want to be well armed.
Forever and ever.
Yeah, as the solution. And it's like, that's not the solution. The solution is living in communities that respect your life and your choices.
Yes. And we connect on that. And I think that's where we can slightly disagree, perhaps on like the current individual level of the way we live our lives. But then if we can rise above it, that's where the true unity is. I wanted to say something about, I guess, what property means and what life means. And what comes to mind just off the cuff is intellectual property. And I don't think I mean that exactly the way it's used currently. But I mean like...
Not a legal term.
No, I mean the intellectual property of my mind.
Yeah.
And my conscience.
Mm-hmm.
And when you bring up my frustration with the live and let live platitude, that brings up my frustration with the gender identity theory cult,
mm-hmm.
Which I classify as a second sect of scientism, the first one being COVID.
Yeah.